Deni Avdija was an NBA role player, no doubt. Okay, he slipped from 4th to 9th for a reason. First years in DC, just like they thought. Pretty good. Nothing special. But then all of a sudden it happened. After a trade to Portland, Avdija started putting up huge numbers like 36 against the Denver Nuggets, but watch this. Against LA, Deni starts a fast break facing 2 Lakers, Austin Reeves and LeBron James. But it turns out Deni already knew what was coming. LeBron slows down to get in position for his signature chase down block. You know, the one that won Cleveland a championship. Blocked by James! But Deni expertly times a hesitation, sending both LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith flying. Afterward, the kid points at both like, gotcha. Where did all that IQ and attitude come from a role player? Well, it turns out the entire NBA was wrong about Deni Avdija. He is now the best player on a Blazers team pushing for playoffs in the West. But how did that happen? Deni was literally an overseas phenom like Luka Doncic, turned pro at 16 like Luka, league MVP before the NBA. So what is it that made him so overlooked and disrespected until now? But you guys have been loving MyFitFoods, which I love, because MyFitFoods is how I stay in shape all year long while not feeling like I'm restricted in my diet or bored, because they have new meals that they mix in every single month. Trust me, I have tried like 100 of these meal prep places. MyFitFoods is by far the best I have ever tried. And you can walk into any of their stores in Houston, Portland, or Denver, and be sure to use my code AMH25 for 25% off your order at MyFitFoods. It helps out the channel, lets them know that you came from me. Again, that is code AMH25. Well, Deni was born in the tiny Betzira, Israel, to a basketball-playing mom and dad. In fact, his dad played for the Yugoslavian national team, which is a big deal, finished as a pro in Israel. At first, Deni loved soccer, but he was so naturally good that a local pro team scooped him up for their youth squad. By 16, he was the youngest player ever for Maccabi Tel Aviv. And Maccabi ain't any old team, okay? They've won the most national titles in league history. 6 EuroLeague titles, which ranks 4th all time. So being their youngest player ever is a big deal. Just 3 years later, he led Maccabi to another title, won league MVP. So next step, NBA draft. Deni was projected as high as 4th behind Ant, James Wiseman, and LaMelo, but he fell all the way to 9th on the Wizards, and that fall was immense. Front offices were scared off by a lack of athleticism, questionable shot, and having no defined position, which ironically are all the things that now make him special, but we'll get there. Also, what no one wants to mention was a cultural bias, whispered about, not in like a malicious way, but just historically, Israeli players were not taken seriously as star prospects. Deni had to break through that ceiling too. Now 9 was the highest drafted Israeli player ever, but that fall hurt him big time, because Deni is the perfect example of how getting drafted to the wrong team can hurt or even ruin a player. The reality was, DC, a horrible place to develop. They had a bunch of mediocre star vets who needed the ball. So draft Deni to be a big wing creator, late game closer. Then immediately ask him to go stand in the corner 3-and-D. Give the balls instead to guys like Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Russell Westbrook, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jordan Poole. Deni got boxed into the wrong identity, which then seemed to validate the people who said that his skills wouldn't translate. So by year 4 on a toxic franchise, Deni was already the longest tenured player on the roster and only got a 4-year, $55 million contract. That is less money than Zach Collins, Grayson Allen, Terrence Mann. So even if you say, no, we always knew Deni was special, we saw flashes, the contract says otherwise. 4 years, role player. It was so bad that when DC traded him to the Blazers on draft night, local media was happy he was gone.
I think the Wizards are selling high on Deni Avdija. There is a ceiling there that is lower than people want to admit when it comes to his role on a winning team.
Yes.
He's the 4th, 5th best player on a winning team. He's not your 3rd star. Deni Avdija by Wizards fans is overrated.
Wow. But the crazy part is, that opinion was correct at first. So the trade was the Blazers get Deni for Malcolm Brogdon, Bub Carrington, a 2029 first and 2 seconds. So that is a lot. And at first, the pressure was actually too much. Sometimes we don't realize the personal connections that people make are completely destroyed overnight. And especially for someone who's from overseas, in the US, it hurts. Reminds you of the heartbreak that Luka went through. It was nighttime at my place in Israel, and I woke up. I saw I got traded. It was very hard for me. All the friendships that I had with the guys there in the city, the fans, disappeared in a second. And it was so tough that Portland benched Deni for not playing well. Chauncey Billups said, take a break, find your footing in the offense. And once he did, the breakout was electric. March 10th, Deni dropped 34 with 16 boards and 6 dimes on the Warriors. And that was the new Jimmy Warriors, okay? We're dominating. 2 days later, 27, 15, and 5 against New York. So he's stuffing the stat sheet. I am sorry, but every piece of evidence had predicted this. Elite overseas prospect, MVP of the Israeli League, MVP of the FIBA U20 tournament, dominant as a teenager against grown men. How stupid were the Wizards for letting him go? But if they thought this was a fluke, he stepped up again this year. If voting now, Deni would be an NBA All-Star. So that's what he looks like when allowed to be himself. And what does that look like on the court? Well, with the ball, Deni does his best work attacking the basket, and so far this year, he's been taking 8.2 shots at the rim per game, third most for all guards and wings, behind only Cade and Amin Thompson. Physically, he's got a unique blend of quickness, strength, and agility. For example, one of his go-to moves has been this low pickup, where once he feels the defense leaning outside his frame, he's going to snap the ball through and extend to the rim with 2 steps. Right off the catch here, he's going to attack toward the middle, and as this defender turns and opens up his hips, that's going to be another low gather for Deni back to his left. And while playing with a head of steam, Deni also loves to initiate contact. He'll often throw his inside shoulder into the defense to then bump through and muscle his way into finishes. But while attacking the basket, Deni is also very good playing off 2 feet. That is an underrated skill, because playing off 2 feet leads to less turnovers because you got better overall shots. Only bigger guards can do it consistent. So here, he is going to attack the defense with a head of steam, but initiate contact, then play off 2 feet to finish. So because Deni is a bigger and highly skilled 6'8", 230 ball handler, that naturally makes him a matchup problem for the defense. These small dudes got no chance against him one-on-one, but he is still growing as a player, okay? If I had a nitpick, it would be finishing with his left hand. This play, for example, check out Daniel Gafford. He is smart. He is going to shade Deni's right because he knows that's his weakness. Sure enough, Deni tries to force it and a block. But one of his biggest improvements has been shooting. Off the catch, 44%, which is elite. Overall, he's shooting 38% on 6.7 attempts, and his shot diet is great too. To round out his offense is passing. Deni has a good feel of reading the defense and finding the open man, but one thing holding him back there is his team, honestly, because right now the Blazers as a whole are shooting just 32.4% from 3. That is 3rd lowest in the NBA. That gives the off-ball defense a license to load up in the paint and just live with these spray-out threes. I think if the roster got a talent boost, Deni could easily be north of 8 assists per game. Now, when switching over and looking at his defense, he's made a lot of improvement there. Can guard 1 through 5. Even though the tools are there, he can have a lack of focus, but still, the Wizards traded a likely all-star on the best contract in the NBA. And it's all because they doubted him after being miscast as a role player. But it turns out Portland is the first time anyone in the NBA actually let him be himself. But another young guy who's looking for a second chance is LaMelo Ball. There are now trade rumors that LaMelo actually denied. But one report says this story is not going away.